So we're about to dive into something fascinating and, well, frankly, pretty wild. We're going to see how a simple question about aliens that went viral on social media could possibly connect to a theological argument that's literally been going on for 2,000 years. It all kicked off with this one simple post that everybody seemed to have an opinion on.
And this is it, the post that started it all. Seems pretty straightforward, right? If aliens show up, who talks for us? But the answers were anything but simple, and they led the author of our source material down a rabbit hole that I don't think anyone saw coming. Oh man, the answers were just all over the place. You had your serious suggestions, scientists, diplomats, that kind of thing. But then you got the good stuff. People were nominating everyone from Elon Musk to Celine Dion. My personal favorites, though, a random Discord mod, or of course, the absolute legend from the early 2000s, Crazy Frog. It was all fun and games, but then the conversation took a really sharp turn.
Right? So how on earth do you get from Crazy Frog to ancient theology? Well, the author we're looking at noticed that this kind of speculation, this wondering about who's out there, actually overlaps with a much older and much more serious debate happening within Christianity.
So check this out. It all started with this post from a reverend claiming that the Catholic Church has a perfect, unbroken historical line all the way back to Christ. But almost immediately, another user jumps in and says, hold on a second, what about Rome persecuting the early Christians? That doesn't sound very unbroken to me. And just like that, you've got this classic theological throwdown happening right there.
And this is where our author kind of steps into the ring. They suggest that maybe everyone is missing the point, that this isn't just about historical records or who has the oldest paperwork. To really get it, they say, you have to elevate the whole conversation from history to metaphysics. And they do it by introducing one single, incredibly important Greek word.
That word comes from one of the most famous lines in the Bible, right at the start of the Gospel of John, "In the beginning was the Word." Now, here's the key. In the original Greek, that term for word is logos. And according to the author, if you don't understand what logos really means, you're missing the entire point of the debate.
Okay, so logos is not just a word. It's way bigger than that. Think of it more like the operating system of the universe, the divine reason, the cosmic logic that underpins all of reality. It's the creative principle itself, which in Christian theology is identified as Jesus Christ. So yeah, it's a huge concept.
So here's how the author builds their case. First, they point to something called apostolic succession, which is basically the idea of an unbroken chain of leadership going all the way back. They mention how early church fathers used these lists to prove they were teaching the real deal. But here's the final leap, and it's a big one. The claim isn't just about preserving history. It's the metaphysical claim that this institution has the job of being the designated guardian of the Logos itself, of protecting that divine reason from being corrupted.
Okay. I can practically hear you thinking, what does any of this have to do with aliens? I get it. But hang on, because this is where the author brings it all back home. We're pivoting from ancient theology right back out into deep space, using some well-known scientific ideas to set the stage for the final theory.
And it starts with this massive, haunting question, the one at the very heart of the Fermi paradox. I mean, just think about it. The universe is unbelievably huge and ancient. Statistically, the odds say there should be other intelligent life out there. So, where's everybody? Why is it so quiet?
And that's the paradox right there in a nutshell. On one hand, you've got the math, the pure statistics, screaming that the universe should be teeming with civilizations. But on the other hand, you have what we've actually found, which is absolute silence. Nothing. It's this giant contradiction that has puzzled scientists for decades.
Now, to even wrap our heads around what an advanced civilization might look like, scientists came up with this, the Kardashev scale. It basically ranks civilizations by how much energy they can control. A Type 1 controls its planet. A Type 2, its star. A Type 3, its entire galaxy. And here's the really humbling part. Humanity isn't even a Type 1 yet. So any civilization we might run into would likely be so far beyond us, it's not even funny. Which leads us straight to this perfect quote from the legend Arthur C. Clarke. If you think about it, the technology of a Type 2 or Type 3 civilization would be so far beyond our understanding, it wouldn't look like technology to us. It would look like magic. It would seem completely supernatural. And so, this is it. This is where all the pieces come together.
The author takes the theological debate about the logos, the cosmic silence of the Fermi paradox, and the idea of technology as magic, and weaves them all into one single truly wild theory about the so-called alien phenomenon.
So here are the two competing ideas. The standard view, the materialist one, is that aliens are physical, biological beings from another planet. But the author proposes this alternative, theological view. What if these phenomena aren't extraterrestrial at all? What if there's some kind of non-physical, maybe even spiritual, intelligence that is actively pretending to be an alien in order to deceive us?
And to support this kind of speculation, the author points to biblical passages like this one. The idea of a great deceiver, a spiritual entity that disguises itself as something good and enlightened, an angel of light, is a core concept they use to frame this potential cosmic deception.
So why does any of this matter? Because for the author, this whole thing, from funny tweets to deep theology, isn't really about UFOs. It's about a battle over the very source of truth itself, a battle for the logos. A deception on this massive scale would challenge everything we think we know about our origins, our purpose, and our morality. And it all boils down to one final, profound question.
And here we are. This is the big philosophical question that the author argues is the ultimate stake in this whole debate. We can all look around and observe what is, the material universe. But where do we get our ought, our sense of right and wrong, of meaning and purpose? Is that just something we invent for ourselves? Is it something we're supposed to get from some advanced beings from the stars? Or is it, as the author suggests the logos represents, something else entirely, woven into the very fabric of reality? That is the ultimate question.